Now, Bruce Maher is the Group Director of Corporate Affairs at Foxtel. He joins us now from Sydney. Bruce, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Michael.
You say Choice's claims are disingenuous and dishonest. Why?
Well, look, it's a great pity that a reputable organisation like Choice chooses a couple of examples very selectively and then basically chooses to misrepresent them. You can't compare Netflix to Foxtel. Netflix is essentially a library service. It has old content. And then because it's built up quite a big subscriber base for that content, it's been able to invest in a couple of really good shows like Orange is the New Black. But if you're somebody who loves drama in the United States, yes, you might have Netflix, but you won't get the recent series of True Blood, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead and all of those sorts of things. So, and you probably don't just watch one drama series a year. You're not just going to watch Orange is the New Black. So a US consumer will pay their $9 to Netflix, but they'll also pay for a basic cable package, just like you do when you buy Foxtel. And then you'll pay a premium drama package on top of that, just like you do when you buy Foxtel, and that will get you your HBO shows or your Showcase shows or your AMC shows or whatever. So that is just not a like-for-like comparison, because when you buy the Foxtel package, and particularly under our new pricing model, which will come into effect in November, for $45 a month, you don't just get Orange is the New Black, you get all sorts of other stuff as well, and that's what we're selling. And the price comparison on that basis between Australia and the United States is pretty reasonable. In fact, there'd be many instances where people would be paying more in the United States to get essentially the same thing. We just find it doesn't help the debate to pick particular examples and then, as I say, quote them selectively and in a way that's misleading to consumers.
Well, let's go to that example Alan Kirkland used. Is there a 431% differential between what you'd pay to get Orange is the New Black from Foxtel versus what you'd get from overseas?
But it's not the same. You're not comparing the same things. You're not when you buy get the Foxtel subscription. What you're getting is a whole lot of other things. It's not
Excuse
just
me for interrupting. Say I was dead keen. I didn't want to watch anything else on Foxtel. I wanted to watch Orange is the New Black. Is that the differential I pay?
But it's a look. I understand what you're trying to say, but that is a completely misleading way. That's not the way that the market works anywhere in the world. I mean, even Netflix will not sell you Orange is the New Black alone. You have to buy a subscription to Netflix, and then you get other things as well. They won't sell you Orange is the New Black alone. So these are misleading. Now, there are ways that you can, as I understand it, get access to Orange is the New Black in Australia by video downloads through iTunes and others. I'm not exactly sure what the pricing is for those. There are some differences. But again, even there, when Choice makes comparisons, they'll compare download to own in Australia with download to rent in the United States. And again, those things are going to be priced differently. You can't compare them. They're not oranges and orange comparisons.
Yes, extending an analogy with the title of the show there, Bruce. Now, but can you understand, though, a lot of people will go and pay you say, sure, there's a subscription for Netflix. It's a much cheaper price to pay than paying even the basic entertainment package for Foxtel with the add-ons to get Orange is the New Black.
Well, look, yeah, that's undoubtedly true. And if people are satisfied to have a service, you could, and there are some in Australia like Quickflix and other things like that, where you can get some basic content and you want to pay for it, very cheaply. That's fine. But as I say, that's not the model. Well, it's certainly not our model, and it's not really the model that exists in the United States.
But it's the model. That's the model that's becoming very popular with lots of people using Netflix and bypassing Foxtel in the process.
But I think people have a misconception about what Netflix actually is. I think a lot of people think that if Netflix launched in Australia at that price, you would be able to get the most recent series of Game of Thrones, the most recent series of Walking Dead. That is not what Netflix does. Netflix offers you old content primarily, and because they've done very well at that, as I said before, they've managed to make enough money that they've now started to make a couple of new shows like House of Cards, Orange is the New Black. That's great. But their model is not to offer cheap, new content. They simply couldn't afford to buy, and HBO probably wouldn't sell it to them anyway, but they couldn't afford to buy the new HBO shows and still charge people $8 or $9 a month. The economics of that just don't stack up.
Is the fact, Bruce Maher, that Foxtel, as you mentioned there, recently announced a reduction in some of its prices, a concession that Foxtel is charging people way too much for its service?
Well, look, I wouldn't accept that, but I mean, we certainly have accepted that If we want our business to grow, and we really do want our business to grow, then we have to address a perception around affordability, and we are doing that. So we are, as you say, we're going to reduce the entry price to $25 from the 3rd of November, and hopefully that will mean that a whole lot of people will have another look at Foxtel and say, wow, that's great value for money. That's certainly our strategy, and and we're confident that will be successful.
Let's address Alan Kirkland from Choice's other claim that Foxtel is a monopoly. You can't really dispute that, Bruce Maher.
Well, no, I can indeed. I mean, there's Fetch TV. There are a whole bunch of streaming services that are entering the market. I did hear Alan's interview yesterday. He said that there was regulation that prevented competition. That's simply not true. We are not protected by any regulation. We compete against the free-to-air networks for content and for eyeballs. We compete against the internet. We compete against all sorts of different sources of entertainment that are provided to the Australian people. Yes, we are a big and successful business, and certainly we're by and way the largest subscription TV service, but that doesn't mean that there isn't very healthy competition in this market. And
finally, you talked about Netflix being a repository for old shows. You go onto Foxtel most nights, and to be honest, I am a Foxtel subscriber. You do some fantastic new delivery stuff. Australian drama is great. But you go on to an average prime time night and there's endless Hogan's Heroes repeats, Seinfeld repeats. That is not really offering consumers what they're paying for, is it?
Well, again, as I say, it depends what the consumers want at any given time. But we have hundreds of channels, and some of those channels are going to be library channels. That's just the nature of the beast. But last night, I watched The Devil's Playground and then Black Sails on Showcase. That was 3 hours of extraordinarily high quality first run drama, and that happens regularly. I mean, the new BBC First channel is premiering the best of British drama, and then and if you want to watch lifestyle shows, there's a whole lot of new stuff being produced by us and new stuff that we buy. But yes, there's always going to be some library content. That's just the nature of a large multi-channel platform.
Okay, Bruce Maher from Foxtel, thank you very much for coming on and putting forward your point of view.
Thanks, Michael.